All right, viewers, we've got a fun video for you today, but we got to give you some context. We're going to talk about things that really annoy us.
So we both said, let's write down our list of things that really annoy us.
Right.
And they wound up both being about each other.
Yeah, very personal and like deep-rooted stuff. And they were like, we're going to destroy this relationship and the intertwining of our families. Our wives are best friends.
We burned the notes, and now
Yes.
we're going to make it about things that cameras do that annoy us. And I think that'll save our relationship.
I think it's much better fun. Take that. Welcome back, DPReview TV viewers. It is Chris Nichols here.
It is Jordan Drake here.
And so yes, today we're going to talk about the 5 things, in no particular order, that we find really annoying about maybe particular cameras or cameras in general in the industry. And it really has to do with how we shoot, how we do our workflow. It might be different for you guys.
Yeah, exactly. Like, these aren't the kind of things where it's like, I could never buy the camera. This is a huge glaring fault. No, these are the little irritating quirks that just get under and make your eye twitch and just piss you off generally.
He's getting angry already. So let's try to get through these. Let's get to number 1. So this continues to annoy us, and it's from a major camera manufacturer. It's Sony's lack, even today, of in-camera raw processing. It might not be something that affects the regular user every day, but for us, especially when we go on new camera launches and we want to have an idea of what these files can do, and of course there's no support for Adobe or Capture One yet, it's really annoying that we can't just, maybe boost shadows or something right in camera, get some JPEGs and be able to put them in our videos.
Well, and not even just for us, but for other people who might have raw software at home on their computer, but a lot of the time they're like on vacation or something.
Sure.
You shoot a high contrast shot, you might want to play with it a tiny bit in camera, export a JPEG, share it to your smartphone, and throw it up on social media. It's a really common use case. But more than that, some of the Sonys have their multi-shot high resolution modes, and the only way to put those together is back at home on your computer, but they don't do any kind of motion correction at all. So I can't look on the back of the camera and be like, oh, those branches were moving, that shot didn't work, I should take another one. No, you got to find out when you get back home that everything is totally screwed.
It's a crapshoot, and then you have to use their proprietary software to do it. Sony Imaging Edge software, which, as edges go, is about as soft and dull as my ever-expanding tummy. So, which, if you can't tell viewers, is not very hard.
I mean, that's not one of our quirks, but yeah, we'd like better Imaging Edge software.
That annoys me too, my tummy.
I really want in-camera raw processing on Sony cameras. Make it happen, Sony. They listen to people, but not with this one.
They're the only ones that don't do it.
Frustrating. Next thing that really annoyed me was with the brand new OM system, OM1, which is a huge step forward in video, but it has this weird quirk where you can only record 10-bit when you're shooting log or HDR video. I totally see why OM system made this decision, because when do you need 10-bit video? Well, when you're displaying on HDR displays with the HLG profile, or when you're heavily grading that log footage. But the big limitation with this camera is the footage in 10-bit is so much more detailed than when you're recording 8-bit. It basically means, if you want to not grade the footage, you're getting punished with soft footage.
But see, we're not all at your skill level or willing to grade the log footage or slap on LUTs and do all the extra work. I mean, what about people like me that just want to have a good, easy to work with, pleasant, flat 709 profile? What about us? We get locked out of the better quality video. We just suffer?
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially where we're at right now until they fix this. So we would definitely like to see that fixed, OM system.
Now, the next we want to complain about is, as wonderful as adding new subject detection methods are for a lot of cameras, there are often problems with the interface, and they're not always technical. Sometimes they're even just grammatical. We're seeing this as a problem because it's a very easy thing to fix, and it's annoying as hell. So Fujifilm X-H2S is a good example of this. The OM system OM1 is another good example of this, where they have, of course, good face and eye detect software, but they've now also added other subjects, and yet they keep the two menus separate. It just seems so weird.
Yeah, it seems really silly.
Or, if I want to go from shooting a person to shooting a cat to shooting a train to shooting a plane, which can happen in the span of 7 seconds, why do I have to go into separate menus to do that? Why can't I just have all that interface right there in one area? But not everybody does this. I mean, Sony's gotten this right, and Canon's gotten this right.
Well, to a point, but there is one just egregious thing with the Canon cameras we've been complaining about for a long time, and it's grammatical. So when you're selecting the eye detection on and off, it'll say enable or disable.
Right, hit info button to enable or disable. And it implies that, if you hit the info button, it will then enable the eye detect.
That's how the English language works.
Yes, right, it's a verb. But In fact, when it says enable, it is already enabled. It's annoying. It drives some people. I mean, Richard Butler in Seattle, I mean, don't get him started. I mean, this is very passionate about this. And it should be fixed because what are we asking him to do? Add a D?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I can't code, but I'm pretty sure if you gave me a giant text document of this, I could add the D to it and fix this problem for Canon. It's crazy it hasn't been fixed yet.
You know what I do? I just actually scratch the letter D lowercase right behind where it is on the LCD screen itself. Problem fixed?
Okay, I may have slightly downplayed this issue when we recently did our GH6 review, but it is still an issue. The GH6 punch-in magnifier is not very good. Okay, so in that review I said, like, at least it's better than Sony's punch-in magnifier. But
not a high bar.
Yeah, exactly. And it is definitely still a problem, especially if you have deep depth of field in a shot. It can be really tough to pin down. But this is something that really drives me crazy because this is a problem that the GH5, GH5S did not suffer from. It's new with their latest flagship.
That's weird. This is actually one thing. I mean, we've been shooting you a lot for a lot of our video reviews lately, and it's been driving me crazy, and I've been complaining to you constantly on the shoot, and I'm just like turning the handle back and forth, right? Like,
that's how focus rings work, yeah.
Yeah, it's brutal, but not just for video, for photography as well. Because then when I'm doing test shots on the GH6, for example, with the new Panasonic 9mm lens, manually focusing that, it was really hard to get it down because it's so soft.
Exactly, like that deep depth of field issue again, right? Because it's an ultra wide. It's really painful. I don't know if there is going to be a software fix for this. It might be cooked into the hardware with the sensor. I don't know, but I'd love to see it improved.
So the next thing that we really think needs to be changed in the industry is just this whole implementation of HDR photography, high files, higher bitrate images. And again, just to clarify, we're not talking about HDR photography where you stack multiple exposures together to get more dynamic range. We're talking about the ability to shoot a photo and then display it on a high dynamic range display like TVs, computer monitors, smartphones, and just get more dynamic range visible that the human eye can just ingest in beautiful wonder.
Okay, so some of the words that came out of your mouth just now were not gibberish. So we're talking about some of those. This is a real issue that we see all the time where people are saying to us, like, why doesn't my expensive mirrorless camera produce images that are like as bright and vivid as what I see when I take a picture on my smartphone? And it's because the camera and the screen on your smartphone are built in together. So they shoot it, they play it back in HDR, and it looks wonderful, right? But so often, if we want to shoot HDR photos, then the easiest way to do it is actually shoot it on your camera, plug your camera into an HDR TV. I mean, that's going to work most of the time. But let's say you want to edit the file.
But that's like so 1990s.
It's bananas. So like, we could edit the file on our computer and then try like putting it on an SD card and plug it into our screen. But a lot of the time, it's just going to convert it back into an SDR when you do the export on that. You could export it back onto the camera, plug the camera into your TV, and display the edited photo.
Absolutely.
But it's madness.
It is gibberish, right? And it is very confusing. And I think a lot of people are dodging the whole subject because of how confusing it is, right? I mean, even if I shoot an HDR photo on my camera or phone and send it to you, it often down converts.
Yeah,
you know,
it just displays as an SDR, like lack of contrast photo.
And that's all lost. And then you think like, okay, we could even shoot our YouTube show right now in HDR on YouTube.
I would love to. I love the look of HDR video. It's beautiful. But then for our audiences that aren't watching on an HDR display or their browser is not displaying the HDR properly, they look at a muddy image that, you know, I really have no control over how it's tone mapping things.
Or sometimes you even have companies like Fujifilm, which are allowing you to shoot like 10-bit HEIFs, but they're still down converting to an SDR profile. So you're like, well, what's the point of even doing it? It looks good in the menu, but again, you're totally confused. You're not seeing a different result. You're not going to use it. It's just such a weird implementation. They need to come along, streamline it, and make it more accessible for everybody to enjoy.
We need it to just say, like a JPEG. I can open a JPEG. If it's a 10-bit HEIF file, I can click that, it'll display it on my device. But we are a long ways out from that, and until it becomes standardized, no one's going to care about this feature.
Okay, so we're getting all riled up here, but there's still a few things we have gripes about. So let's do some honorable mentions. I'll begin this. I think all cameras should have lockable mode dials. That means that you've got that push button on the top that lets you either freely spin it or lock it in place. And this is also great for exposure compensation dials, command dials. I think we should have this in all cameras. All right, Jordan, how about you?
Okay, so really related to that, if your camera lets you shoot video and adjust your shutter speed, give me the option to lock the shutter speed dial, because this is my most common up is I bump the dial. I'm now shooting 172-degree shutter, like a 40th of a second, and something that doesn't make sense. Let me lock that. Chris, what do you got?
Okay, so another one is auto ISO and minimum shutter speeds. I want to be able to change my minimum shutter speed rapidly and quickly. Yeah, I use auto ISO all the time when I'm testing cameras, and it's really helpful then to have the right shutter speed for the right situation. But a lot of cameras still don't let us access this easily. Got to go in the menu. There's no way to customize a button. I mean, the Nikon Z9, which we love, is really bad for this. So give me a quick button that I can customize to immediately go to my minimum shutter speed.
Chris, I know you're tired of me bringing this up, but I have to keep harping on it. Canon, when I am recording video, let me still see my histogram so I can tell how bright the scene is, and my horizon level so I can tell if the camera's level. This isn't just important before I hit the record button. Sometimes things change in a shot. That's the amazing thing about video. Fix this and I'll stop bitching about it. What do you got, Chris?
Okay, Jordan, so the last thing I want to gripe about, I've griped about this before, but let us customize the colors of our autofocus boxes. You know, not just when it confirms autofocus, but the autofocus area. Hell, let us do the menus. I mean, if I'm in the rainforest, my autofocus box goes green, I'm f***ed. If I'm in the winter and my autofocusing box goes white, I'm f***ed, right? I mean, let me customize. Give me the RGB slider with 256 levels of red, green, and blue. Let me customize the menus, the colors. I get ownership. I get to customize. It'll be like a Squaresoft Japanese RPG, and we'll all love it, and everybody will be happy.
Thank you for watching this video of two grown men whining, something that's really hard to find on the internet. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you did, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can get more DPReview TV, but otherwise, hop on DPReview.com. They will highlight a lot of these annoying issues in their full reviews, which you should definitely check out. Thanks so much for joining us. Subscribe, like the video, and we'll see you all again soon with more DPReview TV.